Ready! Let's go!
Fighting games are now more popular than ever, with titles like Street Fighter 6 and Tekken 8 making great strides to appeal to more casual audiences. The scene is exploding with more and more newcomers turning into die-hard fans. But it's also a genre of deep-rooted franchises, making it difficult for newer entries to gain popularity. Enter in 2XKO, the new League of Legends fighting game that looks to inject the genre with fresh new ideas and the typical flair we've come to expect from Riot Games. I was lucky enough to get invited to the closed alpha of the game. 2XKO has been a game I've been eagerly watching, as I could tell that this could be the game that gets my other friends into the genre. And while the game is still a long way from completion, with a lot of features still missing, the core gameplay mechanics are a blast to play. It's so refreshing to see a fighting game so accessible for beginners, yet deep enough for hardcore competitors to still sink their teeth into it. Right off the bat, the game's presentation has much of the sparkle and finesse that gamers have come to expect from Riot Games. Riot is known for having stylish-looking games like Valorant, and it's no different here with 2XKO. I love the cel-shaded look of the characters and backgrounds, and the supers all have great dashes of color and swift movements of action that mimic the look of a comic book. Menus are flashy and busy, but in a good way, resembling the slick urban style of something like Zenless Zone Zero. And when you search for matches, you do so in a virtual arcade, not unlike what Street Fighter 6 and Tekken 8 have done recently. I love this style of lobbies as it simulates the joy of bumping shoulder to shoulder against other people like you do at local tournaments. There's even one great added feature where players can spectate other matches straight from the lobby, no loading required. It's a welcome addition that I hope more fighting games utilize, as it's great to watch other people's matches instantaneously. What's not as quick, however, is starting matches. When players want to play against one another, they have to make their way to their selected station. Then they have to select the characters they want to use, and then they have to select their stage. Other fighting games solve this issue by already having all this predetermined before starting. That way the match can begin right away. Having to wait a few extra seconds might sound like no big deal for some, but it does take up some time and eventually add up, especially when playing for hours and hours. If one were to play the game for 100 hours, I wouldn't be surprised to see if a few of those hours were spent simply waiting to get matched and having to select characters and stages. Hopefully developers can find a way to streamline this process or find a way to cut out a few steps before the game's release next year. But when you're in a match, 2XKO is a very fast game. Even though matches can last a while, sometimes 5 to 8 minutes long, in combats, it is very snappy. Characters' health bars don't drain as quickly as something like Street Fighter and Tekken, but character movement speed is quick, with dashes, plenty of air movement, and quick attacks that can overwhelm opponents. It's much faster than some of the other big fighting games that have come out recently, but not as quick as other anime fighting games like Melty Blood or Guilty Gear. Rather, the pacing is somewhere in the same ballpark as Dragon Ball FighterZ. What I'm most excited about in regards to 2XKO is how welcoming it is to newcomers. It doesn't take long for beginners and longtime veterans of the genre to pick it up and start doing cool stuff. And a lot of that is due to the simple controls. The controls are built with easy accessibility in mind. There are 3 attack buttons, light, medium, and heavy, and 2 special attack buttons. To perform special moves and supers, all the player has to do is press either of the special attack buttons and maybe one other directional button. Players don't have to perform circular motions or charged movements in order to access the cool stuff. Motion inputs are non-existent in this game, and combos are very streamlined. Players can choose to perform auto combos, where all the player has to do is mash one button to do high damaging attacks, Or players can manually perform combos. But even then, manual combos are still fairly straightforward, as most combos consist primarily of chaining light, medium, and heavy moves together.
Headless.
The difficulty of this game is not in its execution, but in its team assist mechanics. For players to succeed in this game, you have to know when and how to best utilize your partner. Do you call them in to help you approach against your opponent? Do you save your partner assist for when you land a combo and want to get lots of damage? Or do you save your partner assist for when you're on defense and when you need to get your opponent off of you? Tag team assists are key to succeeding in 2xKO. Calling in your friends to close the distance between you and your opponent is great, but if you really want to perform the high-flying combos, you'll need to save your tag attack for that. And calling in your partner can be extremely risky, as a bad call-in can leave your partner wide open for an attack. 2xKO is also different because it's a 2v2 game. I haven't had the chance yet to check out the 2v2 mode with my friends, but I have had other matches where I was playing 2 other people while I was playing solo. 2xKO servers aren't the greatest at the moment, and playing with more than 2 people only made it worse. It is a closed alpha, so I'm not going to rag too much on the game's online performance, but I did experience quite a bit of stutter and many instances of rollback frames. There were times when the game showed me landing a hit, only for the game to rewind and correct itself to where I didn't actually land the hits. It also doesn't help that at the moment, 2xKO doesn't show you your opponent's internet connection strength before being matched with them. All I could do was just hope and pray that my opponent was close to my location and that they were playing with a wired connection. For all of you getting into the fighting game scene, I'm begging you, please pick up an Ethernet cable. It'll help everyone else, including yourself. There are a lot of other mechanics that I still haven't gotten into, and that I too still have to figure out. It's still very early in the game's playtesting, and there's so much that will get changed as time goes on. But if this is any indication of the direction this game is heading, it is looking very good. 2xKO's main selling point is how easily approachable it is. With the game announced as free-to-play, the ability to play with a friend or solo, streamlined combos, and a mechanically rich system, it's a perfect entry point for those wanting to break into the fighting game community and butt heads with die-hard experts. For fun, I'm just going to put out my wish list for other features I hope they add in the future. In fact, there's probably a lot here that they're already working on. 1, an enhanced tutorial better explaining some of the game's mechanics. 2, combo trials. 3, predetermined characters and maps. 4, displayed connection strength before selecting opponents. And 5, dedicated grappler and zoner characters. At the moment, there are only 6 playable characters. I got to try out all of them, and all of them were a lot of fun to play. I'm sure there are plenty of other characters already completed that fulfill these traditional archetypes, but my favorites so far are Darius and Braum, the 2 hardest hitting brawlers on the roster. Everyone does look visually appealing and has cool different movesets, so I look forward to seeing what the developers can do to spice up those more traditional roles as well. If you're interested, sign up now for the 2xKO Alpha Lab on their websites. There are definitely more at-home playtests happening later in the future, and it's worth trying out to see how you like it. And subscribe here to Good Games Dude, as I'll continue covering this and more of the best that video games have to offer.
Best tireless warrior! Ari wins!